Mass Transit Agency regarding federal transportation grants and the agency's compliance with reporting requirements from Councilmember Susan L.K. Leroy, dated April 22, 2019.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give you an update about the situation that was brought up on April 18th, 2019. What I wanted to say is, since that time, uh, actually right after the budget hearing, I want to say the 18th, I did have an opportunity to meet finally with the mayor, uh, the managing director, Will Okabe, finance director, Deanna Sako, and also on April 23, the State Department of Transportation Deputy Director of Highways, Ed Sniffen Ryan Fujii, who is the Program Staff Manager for the Statewide Transportation Planning Office, specifically the Federal Transit Grants Program, and his boss at that time, Mr. Robert Miyazaki. Mr. Miyazaki has since left that position. And the reason we had this meeting is at that because I hadn't completed those meetings because I needed to know after talking to Mr. Fujii on April 12th, where were we? What is, the state of the mass transit on the Big Island? Because I was very concerned, as was everybody else. Um, since that time, we were able to meet. Is what normally happens is, as far as the funds, we were able to draw down, and there was a letter that was written. I Jay Boutte, and I believe the letter was given over, two-page letter to the council today, this morning, saying that we're able to withdraw funds. So we are able to use the funds that we have now, and then at the future, I'll be working with Mr. Fujii for those particular funds that, but what we are, and I'm sorry, I wanted to correct, and I apologize to the newspaper with Nancy. I was talking about Ryan Fujii at the last one, and I didn't understand why Mr. Schatz's office called me that afternoon, because then I was even more stressed out, perhaps. And it wasn't Brian Schatz, although I'm sure he will help us if we need to. But I think I surprised him. Yeah, and so it wasn't Brian Schatz. I apologize. It was Ryan Fujii that he's the person that I've been working with most. Okay, is that so? What we're doing is part of a 3-year state management review. It's not guaranteed, but highly likely to include Hawaii County probably next year. It typically occurs in March to April, and what it is in the meeting is to have any corrections or be implemented by December 31st of this year. Okay, and the 5 areas that is monitored by the state is technical capacity, asset management, operations, record keeping and reporting, and compliance. Their top 3 priority concerns were a record keeping and reporting, which was already talked about. We have identified deficiencies. We are implementing county corrections already, even from the time that April 12th when I spoke to Mr. Fujii. And the Hawaii Department of Transportation is implementing a state process. The asset management, that's the second concern. Again, we're updating inventory, the maintenance plan, and the record process. And again, for the third concern is the compliance, updating our financial process, updating our procurement process, updating our maintenance process, and updating our compliance process. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Sniff and Mr. Fujii. On April 23rd when we met, again, Mayor Kim was there, Managing Director Will Okabe, as well as Finance Director. They immediately came together to help us. And I just really appreciate that. And so special thanks to also Deanna Sako, Finance. Her staff has been helping us from the 15th. And the 11 came and helped us. Jay Kimura has offered to help. Everybody in the county is willing to help. I really appreciate that. So I'm implementing procedures. We're going back 2 years of paperwork. And just to say, each year at the minimum, we have 8,580 pieces of paper that we're looking at. We're also looking at the current one, July 2018 to June 2019, and when we can, go back to 2016. And so, but it's good. It came up. I know about it. We know about it. We are already fixing it. We are in compliance and preparing for the audit. And we're not going to wait till December 2019 to get it completed. We're going to do it much sooner. And also in review, when things happen, I'll be sending it to Mr. Fujii to make sure we're on track. But what I also did, and the state is awesome. I called the Maui County Department of Transportation. They're also going to be helping us to send us some forms to see if we can have some consistency. But it's coming along fine. Um, I it's just everybody's just so willing to help, and I am so thankful and blessed. I would before I turn it over to Mr. Sniff, I just wanted to say welcome to Mr. Bucklig. It's been a while since I've seen him, but how wonderful that he's going to be on the commission. And so, if I can turn it over to Deputy Ed Sniffen.
I want to start off by saying that there is no money that's at risk at this time. There's a letter that we sent out to the county to say that you're in compliance now with your MOAs, so start drawing the funds down. There's also no money at risk to be taken back by the federal government at this time. Okay, so I want to make sure that we make that very clear. Meeting with Brenda and her staff, Mayor and Managing Director Okabe and Finance Director Sako, made me feel a lot more comfortable. There's a lot of concerns that we brought up in the past about the program that I see getting addressed. Deanna's group jumped in and is helping out with the auditing of that 9,000 or so files that are coming up. Will's involved in this directly to make sure that things are moved forward from the administration's perspective, and really keeping at top of mind those top 3 priorities that we see from the state. Some of the big things in there, as Brenda had pointed out, when she started looking at the system, she saw the breakdowns. Some of the big ones on the asset management side, when the federal government puts money into buying a system, your bus system, they want to make sure that you're maintaining it appropriately. So they want to see the records every year on how we maintain our buses. If they don't see it, and they don't see that their investment is being taken care of, then you can start getting at risk for future grant opportunities. So one of the things that Brenda had seen is there's a breakdown from the mechanic shop going up the chain to make sure that that reporting is being done. And I think Brenda had put in a request for 4 positions, and 2 of those are really key: the mechanic's position and that garage supervisor. So those are the 2 key positions to ensure that the asset management piece gets reported accordingly. Those other 2 positions, like administrative assistant and account clerk, are key as well, because when you start looking at the compliance piece that the federal government requires, they don't like late. They don't like incomplete. They want to make sure that when they get the documentation, everything's done and they can move it forward. They want their job to be easy, which is why they dump it on the state. So really looking at those pieces that are missing right now that can get filled back in to ensure that the processes are reset are tremendous. And I really appreciate this council's support on that and the administration's support on ensuring that we are resourced accordingly. The big thing for us, the state, our look at how we manage the system was a little broken as well. When we start looking at the transit system, we protect federal funds coming into the state. So in 13 and 14, Hawaii County lost funding. The state didn't lose it. We just moved it to another island. That was our rule. That was our thought process at the time. Make sure that we protect the funds that come into the state. If there's other programs that can take it, fine. We've since adjusted, ensuring, because like I said, you guys are filling a huge piece of the transportation network. So our role now is to ensure that we protect funds to each island. The funds that we distribute to you should go to you. So we're going to do whatever we can to ensure that that happens. There's state processes that we are fixing as well to ensure that happens. So in the past, there were no set points of contact between the state and the county programs. We're ensuring that everything goes through Brenda to ensure that we know exactly what pieces are coming up, how we operate on that piece, and we can plan accordingly from there. We're starting to look at the NTD data early, and Brenda's going to be fulfilling it early to ensure that by the time it needs to be posted, we know what's going to be out there, and the county knows that if there's any gaps from there. So that's going to be our new role, to ensure that we in each of the different counties in the state are fulfilling our requirements, so each of the programs can move forward appropriately. We're also going to be pulling some of our RTA funding, our TAP funding, training funds, to ensure that we can bring the directors together and the staffs together, and we can bring down training classes from the FTA on this data requirements to ensure that everybody can move forward the right way. So we've adjusted our role. After meeting with Brenda and with the administration, we're very comfortable that we'll fulfill all these requirements by the end of the year. And that's important because next year FTA is coming down in that February-March timeframe. We want to make sure that whatever improvements we make is before the end of the year, so we can be operating in the next 2 months to understand if there's any gaps in the system, any breakdowns that we must adjust before FDA gets here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Carra. Thank you, Mr. Sniffen. This has been completely refreshing. I think we walked out of our budget meeting back in April really all scratching our heads, but this is really refreshing. But more importantly, I think the partnership and the collaboration and the togetherness. Brenda, I think every single council member has always said we want to help. This is a critical piece for our community, is transportation. And it's really refreshing, Mr. Sniffen, to hear how you folks have adjusted your roles as far as helping support our mass transit, but also help them come into compliance. I think, those funds are really critical, and we want to make sure that we're helping ourselves, but we're also making sure that the state is not being hurt by some of the gaps in our services.
Definitely. At this time, and I'll turn it over to Brenda after this. At this time, we're working on the catch-up to make sure that the data that was necessary in the past comes forward, so we can base the program on it as we move forward. Then we're looking at setting up the processes as we go forward. So we're meeting, Ryan and Brenda are meeting to ensure that we set up a schedule so that we hit everything by the end of the year. And that's something I'm happy to share with the council and with the public, to ensure everybody understands kind of where we're going.
Yeah, so the first thing that we're doing is to look for July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018, because that's what we had reported in April, that we came to this situation because it was a different revenue miles compared to previous. So what I'm doing is checking to make sure were we accurate in giving it, because now we're actually looking at the paperwork versus going through each route and saying how many miles should it be, to check that. And then I will give that information to Ryan so that Ryan can review it. We need to specify what the differences are. And then we're also going back to 2016 to 2017 to see whatever paperwork we do have, and check those miles if we can. I gotta look for the paperwork, and then right now I'm currently working on procedures right now, and I pulled all the paperwork to look at to see if we can put it together. I meet daily with the mechanics. We talk to the staff with whatever we have to do to see how we can make it easy. It's more easy, because the mechanics do poor things. They're worried about the buses, they're waiting for parts, and now they got to look at the paperwork. But I told them how important it is, and so they're coming to understand that, and they're willing to help. And so I talked to them to see how we can make it work. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
So I think overall on the deliverable side, what the public can expect to see is the process set to ensure that we are delivering to FTA what they require every year. So that action plan that we'll set with Brenda and with Ryan will show the timeframes by which we'll get into compliance with each piece, so that the mechanics won't have to worry about that, so that our staff won't have to worry about those types of things. And hopefully we can fold those 4 positions kind of into that mix to ensure that we show how that action plan moves it forward.
I think I'm probably the most outspoken critic of mass transit these last couple of years. And as I've said previously, I am greatly refreshed that we have somebody like Brenda at the helm now that has the management acuity to deal with some of these problems. We have what I would term a great mass transit master plan to come forward. but every time we turn over a rock, it seems like we've had a problem. And Mr. Sniffen, I really appreciate the fact that the state has come in to help us shore up in some of these obvious deficits that we've had in our overall management.